I do not own the rights to this music. Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron. Sunday School lesson for Sunday, November the 5th, 2023. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. We are discussing God's Law is Love as the title of the Fall Lesson Series, and it is a discussion of the role of God's law as it relates to our faith in Jesus Christ. The God's Law is Love lesson series is categorized into 3 units or groups of lessons, and we are in Unit 3, and we are discussing that Christ frees where the law enslaves. The title of our first lesson in the Unit 3 Fall 2023 lesson series is titled Enlarging Our Vision. So expanding our vision based upon our faith in Jesus Christ versus the limited ability of the law. The key verse comes from Acts chapter 15 verses 8 and 9, and it reads as follows. God, who knows the hearts, showed that he accepted them by giving the Holy Spirit to them, just as he did to us. He did not discriminate between us and them, for he purified their heart by faith. And Peter is speaking of the Gentiles. The title of today's lesson, Enlarging Our Vision, from the book of Acts, written by St. Luke. And Luke was a disciple apostle of Christ. He was a physician by training and a frequent traveling companion of the apostle Paul on his missionary journeys. Luke recorded the major events in the life of Jesus, his death, resurrection, and the formation of the early church, and the issues that plagued the early believers. Luke records the experiences of Paul and Barnabas in spreading the gospel to the non-Jewish people of Antioch, an ancient Syrian city located in modern-day Turkey. The church established in Antioch served as a base for Paul during his missionary journeys. Differences of opinion arose concerning whether the right relationship with God or sanctification is determined based on faith or adherence to the Mosaic law, especially as it applied to the issue of circumcision related to the Gentile Christians. Luke records Paul's teaching that addresses these issues in the church at Antioch, which he and Peter and Barnabas had founded, which brings us to today's lesson. There are 2 summary lesson points for today. Challenging salvation by faith, and that's from Acts chapter 15, verses 1 through 5, and discussing salvation by faith from Acts chapter 15, verses 6 through 11. So there is a challenge to the salvation by faith doctrine by some people, and there is a discussion and debate on it. The passages for today revolve around the key words of faith and circumcision. We know that faith is the complete trust, assurance, belief, or confidence in God. In today's lesson, Peter declares that the hearts of the Gentiles are purified or made clean by their faith in Jesus Christ. Circumcision, a procedure that removes the foreskin from the human penis. To the Jewish Christians, it was a requirement and a righteous outward sign of adherence to the Mosaic law based on the covenant with Abraham. Our first summary point is challenging salvation by faith from Acts chapter 15, verses 1 through 5. And in these passages, Luke records that some men, they are not identified by name, they arrived in Antioch from Judea, and they began to teach the believers who were not Jews, and they were preaching that they must be circumcised in order to have salvation. Paul and Barnabas was strongly in disagreement with them, and they stated it so. So the assembly, they chose Paul, Barnabas, and some of the other believers to go to Jerusalem, and there the elders would to meet with the elders, and then the elders would decide who was right in this quarrel as far as sanctification. And the group of believers sent Paul and Barnabas and the others on their way. They traveled through Phoenicia and Samaria, and they spoke to the believers in those places, and they spread the message, and the believers were glad to hear that message. And when Paul and Barnabas arrived in Jerusalem, they met with the believers, and the apostles and the whole group of leaders were glad to see them. And they told them about everything that they had accomplished on their journey, and they placed all of it on their faith in God. But there were some Jewish believers who were also among them from the Pharisees group. And they stood up and challenged them and said that we must circumcise Gentiles in order for them to become believers. And we must tell them to obey all the laws of God, the law that God gave to Moses. So this was the challenge and the debate. And the second passage discussing salvation by faith is the debate that took place at that Jerusalem council. And so the apostles and the other believers met to talk about this issue or problem. And they spoke for a long time, and Peter stood up and defended the Gentiles not being circumcised. He says that you know that a long time ago that he was chose among you leaders, that God wanted him to teach the Gentiles about Jesus and his message, and that the Gentiles believed in Jesus. And he says God knows what people truly believe, and he showed that he clearly accepts Gentile believers as his, and he gave his Holy Spirit to them in the same way he did for us or the Jews. And he says he made no difference between them. And he saved them when they believed in Jesus. He made them clean inside. So do not say that God has done anything wrong. He says that God has shown us that he accepts Gentiles when they believe in Jesus, and that if you make the Gentiles obey the law of Moses, it's a weight that the Jewish people has never been able to keep. So why would you do that? It only takes that saving grace or faith in Jesus Christ. This is Brother Ron with the Sunday School Summary for Sunday, November the 5th, 2023. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.